Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, stressed out Christians who want to do more than just survive. I'm Liz Ferricks, and this is my husband, Evan.
Good morning.
And we're so glad you guys are here with us on this wonderful Tuesday.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us for this show. We hope this episode is something that speaks to your heart and helps you understand something about God more deeply and your own personal faith. And that's definitely our prayer for you. If something like that happened, or you just think the show's interesting, please do share it with a friend. We'd love to get the message of the CSCs out into the world so that we can all grow together closer to God.
And since it's Tuesday, our CSC of the day is being surrendered. And this week we are talking about doing hard things.
Yeah, this made me think about how comfort is the enemy of progress. I don't know if that's really a quote, but then it made me think of the opposite of the quote, which is necessity is the mother of invention. So not being, don't you think?
Nice. I never would have thought of that as the opposite. I was like mentally,
the look on your face.
Progress is the enemy of comfort, but no, necessity is the mother of invention. Okay, go.
Well, it's the idea that discomfort, aka a hard situation, is leading to invention. I feel like now you got me wondering.
Sorry.
But when we're comfortable, which is what we're talking about today, God calling us out of our comfort zone. But when we're comfortable, we're not, like when a seed's comfortable, probably not growing maybe. I mean, I don't know, and we talk about things like growing pains and things.
Yeah, well, there's that balance between having a good environment for growth, and in some respects that is comfortable, A plant needs the right amount of water, the right amount of sun. So there has to be that element of this is a good place to grow, but there can't be, it's so comfortable that you stop living.
Yeah, maybe it's this
over-contentment.
Yeah, it's this idea of wherever I'm at now is good enough and I'm going to stop now.
Right.
And that's a sticky trap to be in.
It is. I was actually thinking about Abraham when I was thinking about how God calls us out of our comfort zones.
Yeah.
In Genesis 12, it talks about how God tells him to, leave your father's household and your home and go to the land that I will show you. So there's no here's where we're going. It's just just leave first.
Yeah.
And how stressful that would be to, actually leave your family and leave your hometown and just go somewhere.
Yeah. And life is like that, though. I mean, you and I were just talking today, I think, about how it doesn't seem like we've really been adults for very long.
Yeah. And it is weird.
We're almost 40. Spoiler alert, I guess. And it's
Wait, you're not supposed to tell a lady's age.
I didn't say you're. Well, divide the 40 in half. Maybe Liz is 20 and I'm 20.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's an unknown kind of quantity, right? You become an adult, or even kid stuff. I mean, if we could remember back when crawling was the greatest thing ever, and walking was like, I don't know if I want to try that or not.
Right.
You gotta get
it
out
was a new cool thing, but maybe not cool.
Yeah. Why would I need to do that? I can do this, And so in our spiritual lives, God is constantly saying, okay, now let's do the next thing.
Right. Yeah. I love Beth Moore's study on the fruit of the Spirit. She named it Living Beyond Yourself because it's about how when we're living in the Spirit, by definition, we're doing things that we need the Holy Spirit's empowerment for. We can't be loving and kind and gentle and faithful, and we can't be joyful or have peace or patience, any of these things on our own. So by definition, God is always calling us to stretch, to live beyond what we're capable of.
Yeah, and I just love the analogy of thinking about children. I mean, because we're children of God, it's comforting to me that we're designed to go there, though. It's not like it's so beyond myself that nobody's ever done it before, and it's like, well,
we have Jesus' footsteps.
I'm not made to be patient, right?
Right.
It's like a baby. I mean, a baby could eat baby food for the rest of their life, but they grow teeth and they can then eat hard things like carrots or chew on meat, and that's appropriate.
Right.
And there's a spiritual change that is just as appropriate.
Right.
But
yeah.
we shy away from it sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the writer of Hebrews talks about where they should be eating meat and instead they're still on milk. I think it's in Hebrews. It might be in Corinthians, Paul talking about it, but.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about too. Yeah. Kids that don't grow into adults, we notice how unnatural that is right away.
Right. Yeah,
but
because
spiritually, we don't kind of call that out as much as we should.
Well, it's internal. And you can see the fruit of that tree, but sometimes it looks similar enough on the outside that it's like, well, maybe it is okay. And I think we kind of err on the side of not calling each other out in general in the church.
Because we're supposed to love, right?
Right. Well, and it's hard to walk that line between like, okay, I love you and I'm being kind. You know, we're pairing goodness and kindness. We're not like confronting people in a mean way. We're confronting them sweetly and out of care for them. So it's a hard line to walk. Mm-hmm. And you have to first deal with your own junk. So
yeah, and it's not just up to us to run around and like you measure a kid's height on the door frame, try to measure people's spiritual development somehow.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's the Holy Spirit's convicting of that. But the Holy Spirit can also use things like hopefully this show to demonstrate that there are ways to grow that are perfectly natural, and there are little steps we can take to get to our goals. And that's what we try to talk about on this show every day.
Right. Like we were talking about yesterday, we want to make those in the moment difficult decisions of, okay, am I going to go to bed on time or am I going to play this computer game? Mm-hmm. Am I going to be faithful to do what God's called me to do, or am I going to go watch a TV show or, whatever? Yeah.
And I think in this case here where it's like, so if God does call us out of our comfort zone, which we know he does, we have tons of stories about it from the Bible.
Right.
So what's the little thing we've got to do to engage with that is to listen for the call and to say yes to it.
Right. And that's the essence of surrender.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. And it's gonna change your life, because our default way we do things is surrendering to our, it's the flesh versus the spirit, being more in tune to the Holy Spirit than we are in tune to our worldly desires.
Right. And it takes practice. Like that's one of the things that I love, that we can grow in our surrender. We can grow in our living by the Spirit. We can ask God to fill us more full of the Holy Spirit today than he did yesterday, that we would become people who are good vessels.
We also talk on this show a lot about being, this kind of gets into what we usually talk about on Wednesday, I guess, being centered. But, we are created by God a certain way, right? Like with our personality and our physical features and all these things that are very intentionally put there by God. And so in a sense, it's like, well, why would God make me a certain way and then immediately call me out of my comfort zone to start going and changing everything? And I think, again, if we look back to the way a child grows up, that's exactly what happens. A child is born and immediately you're starting to learn new skills and you're changing and you're growing. You're learning how to drink milk, which you never had to do before. And then you've got to start eating food, which you never had to do before. And then you got to chew. That roller coaster ride of development is something we should be engaging in spiritually as well. And it's exciting because it never ends. And we can stay on that ride forever. But it's going to take continuing to get out of our comfort zone, because we will get comfortable with the new thing.
Right.
And then we got to take another step, and it's a challenge. It's a good journey to be on.
So stop and think about, where are the little easy decisions that you're making that maybe God's calling you to surrender in those places, and ask him to give you the strength to surrender, because that's one of the things that I love about surrender is we can come to God and say, I know you want me to surrender XYZ, but I don't want to surrender XYZ. Can you please help me with that?
Yeah.
And God is perfectly fine with that.
That's right. And that is a kind of surrender, even though you don't feel like it because you're saying, I don't want to do it. But even saying the prayer is a step in the right direction. Yeah. Prayers like that seem like, well, that's not how you're supposed to pray. You're supposed to be like, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, and recite something. But that's a good prayer too. But this kind of rawness with God is an excellent prayer.
As always, pick whether today is going to be awesome or not, whether you're going to strengthen those neural pathways to look for good things and to work on your happiness and joy in your life, or to look for bad things and work on being discontented and miserable with your life.
Well, and in the case of today, look for, like you were saying, the things that you know you're being called to do that are hard. And are you turning a blind eye to that intentionally, or are you engaged with it and trusting God to move forward into those things?
We love you guys, and we are praying for you. Thanks to everybody that's been listening to the show and sharing the show. We really appreciate it. If you have found this episode helpful, please do share it. And if you have anything you'd like to tell us about how things are going in this particular area, we'd love to hear it. We always love hearing how people are applying the CSCs. It's great. Come back tomorrow, and we are going to talk about exercising our character, growing stronger.
Flexing your spiritual muscles.
Yes. It's going to be wonderful.
Yes. So, come on back tomorrow.
All right. Have an awesome Tuesday, you guys.